And we're live.
Greetings, everyone. It's the evening, and we've just finished up watching the congressional speech that Trump gave, and it was awesome. So we have everybody here from Team Rogue Money. We have the one and only Bankster Slayer. We have the main man, the professor, aka Ken the Shotgun Shorgen, is in the house, breaking things down, as well as the Dennison of the airwaves, the man with the dilithium crystals and the flux capacitors, the man himself, CJ. Guys, thank you all for being on. What a great speech. What do you all thought? Let's go around. We'll start with the ladies first. Deb, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was very nice. He's obviously has tossed the ball into the opposite court, saying, "I have opened the doors to unity." And I respond now.
Yeah. Mm. Kenny.
Yeah, I think it was more important than a State of the Union address by standing in the halls of Congress and having, how many people will soon find out how many people watched it. But that was the significant thing is here's the agenda, here's our goal, here's what we want to do. And Congress, for decades now, you have created this division, you have accomplished nothing. Now it's up to you, and the American people are going to be watching. And anytime that there's going to be this fallback, all Trump has to do is say, you know what? We tried to bring them on board. They don't want to do it.
Yep. Absolutely. CJ.
Yeah, I have like 2 pages of notes, believe it or not.
I got like a page and a half. I got a page and a quarter. You beat me, bro.
I've got like 2 pages of notes of just different things that I wrote down, things that I thought he said very well, things that I think that he kind of left out. I would say this, to me, this was kind of more of a messaging to come in front of Congress and try to forge his agenda, and at the same time to try to really bring people along to say, hey, listen, this isn't about ideologies. It's not about political party. We all know here at Rogue Money how broken things are right now. So are we going to work together for the American people, or are we going to work individually for our own party? So in that perspective, I thought at the closing, the last several minutes, he did a great job of trying to bring that message together.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the overall the message was very Reagan-esque. I think he inspired. I think he's laying out exactly what he promised he was going to do and that he's currently doing. He kind of reaffirmed and brought forth back to the memory and the recollection to the American people of what he's already accomplished within the short span of time that he's been in office. I mean, he immediately rattled off on Ford, on Lockheed, on Fiat Chrysler, on the various other companies at Walmart that are decided that, hey, we're going to stay in the United States. He immediately talked about the regulations. He talked about business. He talked about tax, and he really plastered that, and then went into the subjects that were pertinent and important for the American population. And so that's what I thought.
I mentioned a couple of things.
Go ahead, Deb.
I always look at who's in the audience, how they're dressed. Melania,
stunning.
Stunning, but wore black.
Yeah,
that was big contrast to all the white suffragettes. Because there was that big crowd of women there who were all Hillary's little disciples, I guess. But
yeah, I saw that. I was wondering why they're wearing white. I thought, wait a minute, it's not Labor Day yet. Why are they wearing white?
Yeah, this is the remnants carrying the torch of Hillary. Anyway, yeah, they're there to support women's rights, supposedly, I guess. But yeah, and I thought at first Melania looked grim. I thought.
Yeah.
She's not, and there's been all these rumors, but I sometimes I wonder if she is afraid of any threats on Donald's life. I don't know. And then when Donald introduced her, then of course that smile came out. So
yeah,
it was okay.
She looks stunning. Kenny.
Yeah, when it came to that, I think Melania just doesn't, like limelight. There's one thing when you're being a model and you're getting a photo shoot with a limited amount of people, and you do go out in the magazines and that. but it's much different when people are idolizing your photo than they are idolizing you as an individual. That's the one thing she doesn't do. She doesn't seem to seek the fame and celebrity, at least now. Mm-hmm. And so anytime she's put up on a pedestal like she was tonight, it's not really comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the other things that were going on, obviously the big significance is going to be the Democrats, obviously with the election of Perez to the head of the DNC.
What a great choice, huh, Kenny?
What got me is the Bernie Sanders people, left and said that we don't recognize it. That tells you right there the Democrats have no intention of learning from their mistakes. Right. The Republicans, when they got their butts kicked in the Clinton years, they at least came back and said, you know what, we need to make the contract with America. Now, part of it was a bunch of BS, but at least it was an attempt to unify and to say, we need to reach out to the American people. By having a few old hags in the House wear white for women's suffrage, so you're standing with women from 100 years ago who are all dead. Okay. Or what are you trying to do? You're trying to reach out. You should have wore pink with those stupid little hats so you could relate yourself to Madonna and all those paid tools who were out there at the inauguration, the Women's March for the inauguration. But they don't get it. They never will. And the fact of the matter is more and more and more, even if Donald Trump fails on certain things along the way, like he did with his first executive order on halting immigrants from seven different countries.
Yeah, the travel pause.
Right. Even if he fails in a number of things, he is at least trying to do work. He's trying to do something. We never saw, I think there was like 3 things that Obama did in his 8 years. Pushing for Obamacare, climate change BS, and something else I can't even remember. But he would only show up for photo ops, but he never gave anything of substance.
Correct.
The fact of the matter is that what are we, just a month in? Yeah. There's already been more accomplishments in this month than the last 4 years of Obama, and he's going to scare the hell out of Congress, because here's a 70-year-old man who only gets like 3 or 4 hours of sleep and has all the stamina in the world.
Yeah.
He's going to have Congress, doing more work than they've done in their lifetimes. I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of these old guys in Congress start getting health issues from late night sessions trying to push through all this stuff in a very short amount of time, because guess what? All hell breaks loose on March 15th. The debt ceiling, the Holland elections, the Netherlands.
Yes.
And then
Greet Welker's winning, is he not? He's leading there in the polls.
Yeah, but that aside, the euro's crashing. China, I wrote an article today.
Yep.
China is, forget Bitcoin. China may actually be in the process of building its own cryptocurrency, the Bit Yuan, to save their monetary system. We're talking about things, these projects that Trump wants to do over the course of the next 4 and then hopefully 8 years to go forward. But how many black swans are sitting on the precipice right now?
Flocks, man.
Yeah, and
surrounded.
It's Congress who hasn't done any real work since they were scared to death into signing the TARP bailout after the 2008 financial crisis. Most of those guys are still in there. They're 7, 8 years older, and they're already in their 70s and 80s. They're going to keel over from some of the things that are going to come.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if, to be honest, when a crisis hits, that many in Congress, because they're just a bunch of paid tools and don't have the stones to actually make a decision, that they're going to cede a lot of power to Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to say, hey, you know what? Do what you got to do, because they don't want to make the wrong decisions. It's much harder for a congressman who has to get reelected every 2 years to make a wrong decision that their enemies can use from them during the campaign. It's another thing for a president who has to deal with a billion things, and he can have some failures as well as some successes, as long as his intent is on the right thing. But that, to me, is going to be the key. I think Trump, once some of these black swans start coming, forget about executive orders. I think Congress is going to cede him a great deal of power.
Very good observation.
I'm glad Ken brought up the March 15th thing. I do think the tone of this speech is that Trump knows what's coming. I mean, it's only 2 weeks away. So he's setting up the reactor who's good at putting an event, an action in motion, and then already knowing what the reaction is going to be. So he sees what's going to happen after March 15th. And I was thinking, because he didn't really talk about the budget. I don't think it was ever used. He mentioned the national debt. And of course, men like David Stockman must be screaming tonight, going, but he hasn't said how he's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, see, it's interesting you mentioned David Stockman, because I have for decades had a lot of respect for Dave Stockman, but David Stockman has suddenly become the Chicken Little.
Oh yeah,
and
I mean,
he
very well said.
In the Reagan era, at least Paul Craig Roberts has moved out from the fall of the Berlin Wall and the fall of communism to see things in a different light today. But David Stockman still lives in the voodoo economic period of Reagan's time.
Right.
And so I've been lessening my respect and not really listening to a lot of he has to say. He's right in that we should have, we could have an economic collapse at any time. Yeah, absolutely. But his continuous complaints against things. It's like another person who I've just stopped listening to is Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff, to me, over the past 6 months to a year, has gotten puffed up in his own petard, for better lack of term. He always has to tell us, I was right in 2008. I was right. I called this, and he's doing it wrong.
But so was a bunch of other people.
And and the other thing is he only makes complaints. He never gives solutions.
No.
He says, you need to sign up and join my firm, and we'll invest overseas. Get out of America. Well, isn't the populist movement trying to return to America?
Right.
No. So a lot of the older, economists and analysts that we really respected 8 years ago at the 2008 crisis, those are ones I'm not listening to.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Right. No, I'm with you on that, man. I got a lot of, great deal of respect for these guys. But the thing is, it's like I listen to these guys and I'm just like, my God, will you please divorce cut the umbilical cord already? Up. The markets are going to crash next Tuesday. When you look at this pattern here on this chart, you can clearly see it's causing it looks like a phallic symbol, and that really means that we're screwed. That's what it means, and it's going to come down next Tuesday. The market's going to crash next Tuesday. I'm telling you, next Tuesday, and that doesn't happen. And my thing is they won't lay off they won't divorce themselves with the paradigm. They haven't evolved. It's like it's a different world, Ken, and these guys I don't know what it is. They're not shifting gears. They're not moving. I'm married to my paradigm. I love it. I'm just going to stay here. And I'm like, why?
Well, the hardest thing is when a financial analyst sells a product.
Yeah.
Has a brand, has that. You always have to be leery because everything that they sell is in favor of doing that.
Yeah.
I don't knock somebody like, say, Bick Swear or Craig Hemke for, they sell a newsletter.
Yep.
That's the way they make their money. But they also, when you listen to them, are open to things and where things change, new things, etc.
Correct.
I know you and Bix have had big discussions over Bitcoin.
Yep.
And in 2009, I've got some friends who actually have migrated down to Acapulco as part of Jeff Berwick's expatriation thing. And they were big in Bitcoin because they were big in the freedom movement over in New Hampshire, Pork Fest, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've come to the realization that Bitcoin is now going to be obsolete because since the financial system in fintech have captured the blockchain, all government has to do is tell retailers you're not allowed to accept it. Okay, fine. So a bunch of freedom lovers are going to be passing Bitcoin around with each other in this deep black market for a few, goods and services. Big whoop.
Right.
What's the point? And China, the Chinese were using it as a money laundering scheme.
Brilliant.
It's supposed to be money. It's not supposed to be a medium exchange between one currency and the other. If I want to do that, I'll use the Forex markets.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of seeing things, it's really difficult, to tell the truth, not to get enamored by a certain asset or paradigm. I came to the realization, gold is for wealth protection. Silver is an investment. Mining stocks are speculation.
Correct.
However, I'm not going to tell you what allocation to do. It's not my place. But these are the things you got to see them in that light. What you do from there, the same thing. Well, the other side of the coin is we try to preach to the masses what is coming, and that was one important thing that Trump did.
Yeah,
94 million Americans not in the workplace.
Yep, I like you pointed out
the national debt up here. Pretty much everything. The only thing he didn't say was he should have talked about consumer debt.
Oh yeah, 12.8.
And mentioned that our GDP is 85 to 90% consumer and military, or consumer and government spending, and the consumer's tapped out. Where are we going to get the replacement to do our growth? It's going to have to be with return of industry and business.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I think he left out, honestly.
Exactly. We have an unknown person who's joined us, CJ. Do you have any idea who that is?
W, you want to unmute your mic, bud?
He has dodged the predator drones once again. He has once again evaded the Reapers, and somewhere from deep within the Arctic Circle on a decommissioned Soviet submarine parked off the coast of Iceland. W, are you there, sir?
I am, but let me come back in just a moment. I got a call from somebody on this very thing, and it may give us some extra information. So,
he's not live. He's not live.
Secret.
All right, hit the pause and dive. Run silent. Run deep. W.
Well, I think what Ken said was very important, and that's something that we have to remember. And that's something that I tried to look at when I looked at my notes, was that what wasn't said through this, because it's very easy for our legislatures to get boggled down, and that's my fear of what's going to be happening next, is that they're going to get boggled down with Obamacare. They're going to try to do tax reform, but it's going to be nearly impossible to do both. I mean, shoot, you can't get half of the Republican Party to agree on what to do. The Republican Party has been notorious for never doing anything, with healthcare, and not that I believe that it's a right. I think everyone should have access to it. Don't get me wrong. So I take a look exactly what Kenneth stated, what was missing from this, and that's something that I took a look, and something that I don't see is limiting government. I know he talked about going through and talking about, as far as the ability to become a lobbyist after you leave his the actual office, and you can never but scaling down government. It goes back to that thing, V, that we say this a lot in the morning, is that American people are ready to hear the truth. We're ready to hear that America is involved with funding these illegal wars in Syria, in Afghanistan. It's time to bring that information to full premonition, to full scope for us to completely understand of what's happening. And I get it. This is a political speech, and yes, the overtone and his message that was delivered was very good, but a speech is a speech. So I'm really hoping that from this that we can gather the momentum to really speak some more truths about the tsunami that's heading in front of us in terms of our economy, our jobs, the things that have occurred the last several years in terms of the United States, and the fact that we've lost. All we've done is spread war and weapons and everything else. We haven't done anything to do what China has been doing the last several years of building all these trade partnerships around the globe. We're so far behind.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly. Deb, your thoughts?
Yeah, speaking of the truth, I wanted to mention, I thought it was highly significant that the widow of Judge Scalia was there in the audience. I think that sent a message.
Yeah, what do you
there's always been those lingering, and listen, the guy was murdered.
Deb,
he
what
didn't
are you
just
talking
die.
about? People die of natural causes all the time with pillows on their faces.
Oh, God.
Come on, Deb. You sounded like a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, conspiracy theory. Yes, indeed. Yes, she was there. That was Trump saying, "I know."
Yeah.
Oh, and then link that to the statement about the hard message about going after the drug cartels. And he didn't just say drug cartels, he said criminal
cartels.
Criminal cartels.
My mind,
and he mentioned that's exactly what I thought, because he mentioned the 4 departments: the DOJ, the DHS, the State Department, and the intelligence agencies.
Yep.
Well, if he thinks he's going to get the intelligence agencies on his side to fight the drug wars and the criminal cartels, also sending a message to the CIA.
Yeah.
They're going to be cleaned out.
Absolutely. Kenny, what are your thoughts on that, man? Kenny?
Yeah, you caught me typing in the chat room there.
Caught you red-handed.
Yeah, one of the significant things somebody just posted in the chat room was, there was a lot of limited things he talked about. He just did a rehash of what his campaign goals were. Well, the important thing about it is when you're just starting out, you can't have a billion things, and this is one of the big discussions we've been having lately over, is he really draining the swamp?
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at the leaks that have been going on. Okay. It's taken decades of going back to JFK, if not to Operation Paperclip, to create this swamp. The bureaucracy goes 4, 5, 6 levels deep. You're not going to get rid of them in a month's time. You're not going to get rid of them in a couple years. You've got to, any single one can wreak havoc all across the spectrum. So what you have to deal with is you have to build your base. Okay. And you know what? Perhaps something like putting so much additional money into the military is his way of assuring that he has the military behind him before he really goes after the intelligence agencies.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't, then you know what? If we remember, pretty much everybody from the FBI to the CIA to everybody was against JFK, because JFK did not cultivate any support.
Right.
He went after everybody. Well, Trump has to figure out his enemies, and the best way you do it, of course, is you get the military. You get them on your side, and the military can do a lot of covert operations against the bad guys that will never make it to the press, and that Trump doesn't have to answer for.
Right.
Because if he bolsters the military, which, if you think about it, what have these wars in Afghanistan and Iraq done over the past more than a decade?
Demoralized us.
Well, they've also depleted our entire arsenal.
Yeah.
And so really, I don't expect that the budget's going to stay, with this additional money every year. But you do have to rebuild, and I'm hoping, like he did infer, that a lot of that money is going to get redirected to the VA hospitals.
Yeah.
So, it's one step at a time. He's working with several different pies at one time. He's got the personnel in to do it. I think that's also why he's not really focusing as much on the Wall Street. He didn't mention Wall Street. He didn't mention, except for the fact that the markets, have gone up in $3 trillion in
phantom wealth,
paper garbage wealth.
Yeah.
But, the thing is I suspect he's waiting for a financial calamity before he really clamps down that, or until he solidifies some of the many things that he's got to get going. We're not just talking the Intelligence Department or the State Department, which he's already working on. We're also talking about the AMA. One of the reasons that healthcare is the way it is because of the AMA.
Yeah.
They've ensured that alternative medicines that will keep people from going to hospitals in the first place aren't allowed, aren't recognized, aren't part of the mainstream. Then we've got the NEA, who's going to fight tooth and nail. It reminds me when his voucher program, Arizona their legislature just passed a new voucher program. $5,000, parents can take that and send their child to any school they want here in Arizona. Well, guess what the response was from the opposite side? That money should stay with public schools because we need to fix public schools first. And my first thought is, okay, over the past 20 years and all this additional money, why didn't you think to fix the schools then? No, that the swamp is so vast. It's not a matter of kicking out the Treasury Secretary or kicking out a few people here and there. No, the bureaucracy has taken down more governments and more leaders and more kings than anything in history. Yeah. That's why Stalin, that's why Lenin and Trotsky never were the big men on campus, because Stalin was an administrator from Georgia, and he came in and he set up his bureaucracy, and he, ended up assassinating Trotsky, chasing him down, and he just let Lenin be Lenin when he finally died. But his bureaucracy was already in place, and he had it down with an iron fist.
Yep, absolutely correct. Very well said. CJ, your thoughts?
Well, I think W just rejoined. I'm very interested to see what.
I'm
going to yield the floor. I'm going to yield the floor to W.
The sub has
All right, guys.
Have you brought in have you remembered to bring in the antenna? It's still floating out in the water. Make sure you reel it in.
Yeah, actually, I don't make any turns until the antenna's all the way in. Otherwise, you end up running over your own antenna. Then you don't hear very good anymore.
No,
so,
this is very true.
Here's the deal. And I thought Ken made an excellent point. This is about consolidating your position. The thing that was happening during the last administration, let me jump back in time a long ways, longer than most of the people listening can remember, other than Long in the Tooth Wolf. Back to the Dulles brothers, who controlled State Department and CIA. And what had occurred in this last stretch was that really the State Department and the CIA's operations had been completely consolidated. And we saw that at Benghazi. We saw it in various activities in Afghanistan, including in the covert world, and the way missions were run and operated. Very merged operations there. And so the only outsider that was being finally brought completely under the thumb of State Department CIA was the arrest of the DOD. And that was well underway. And there was pushback. Of course, we didn't go into Syria, and thank God, and the Joint Chiefs and the National Security Council and those people who put their ribbons and stripes on display for all the world to see over YouTube and said, no, I'm not going to go fight your Muslim war. And I'm not going to fight for Obama. And they wouldn't fight for Hillary. And that's why Hillary didn't get elected. Now, the problem is that while Trump is going to throw a bunch of money at the military, it's not going to be without a lot of complaining from the three-letter agencies, and especially the CIA. So you expect this internal combat to continue and probably intensify. And even some of the actions of folks, as you know, we've talked in the last few days about things going on behind the scenes that I'm assisting in. And the long and short of it is that this is going to be, there's going to be a lot of fratricide, I'm afraid, and there's going to be a lot of hard decisions that people are going to have to make inside this agency and adjacent agencies, where they're going to have to make a choice to go with the out crowd or go with the in crowd, and the in crowd is going with the country. And it's going to be some hard choices for some people because they just don't see clearly. They're so far down in the depths of the ocean, they don't see daylight anymore. And they've lost perspective. They've lost their understanding of why they even do what they're doing and who they're supposed to be doing it for. And so this is going to be a come to Jesus moment. And I say that precisely because a lot of those people are going to have to decide which camp they're in. And that camp that's out is anything but God-fearing. And that's the way it is.
Very well said. Bankster. Kenny.
Wait, I'm here.
No, I don't know. There you go. Go ahead, Deb.
I'm here. I want to mention something about the Dakota pipeline, and I haven't really gone through all of Jim Willey's latest reports, but even the free report he posted, he's been talking a lot about why there is the push to build up the oil reserves, and it's he explains it is linked to the coming of the gold trade note, and the gold and petroleum reserves is being connected to each other. But I am wondering, the push for the Dakota pipeline has been made so swiftly that it needs to build up its oil reserves, since we know there isn't any gold left.
Kenny. He's on mute.
Yeah, I'm back. What was the question?
No question. Just comments. You're talking about the Dakota pipeline, possibility of the interconnection between oil, gold trade settlement note. What I think is happening is we are reverting. We're leaving the paper world behind. We're going back to a commodity and physical economy. And if that's the game that's going to be played globally, then we need to get on the horse real quick and get a physical economy up and running as fast as we can in order to inoculate ourselves to withstand or buffer the coming economic reset. But what say you, Ken?
Yeah, the most important thing about the Keystone Pipeline, in my opinion, is that Donald Trump needs to realize that the writing's on the wall. The petrodollar's gone. The eventuality of the dollar no longer being the sole reserve currency is quickly on the horizon, which means, of course, that we're going to have massive hyperinflation coming. And then from there, he's going to have some really difficult choices. Do we have any amount of really modicum of gold to be able to create a new currency? Are we going to have the domestic currency, and then whatever gold we have is going to be used for external trade? Is the United States going to, because the other thing is that the U.S. is going to have to go, I think, into isolation for a bit of time. Europe is going to implode completely.
Yep.
And China is going to recognize they want to trade, with the United States, but they're going to find themselves standing in the power seat. So it's not a matter of the United States can dictate anything anymore.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to do that. I see the most important thing, I know you've been advocating Dow 29,000. Well, sure. Actually, I'm more on the WebBot thing. It's going to be a Dow 100,000.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But we're going to be in hyperinflation.
Correct. You got to stick it somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to put it somewhere.
We're going to be in hyperinflation. Now, I thought of an interesting thing, getting back something Big Swear said. And this is something maybe people could start looking at, is if silver, as you said, the commodities, if silver becomes for the future what some are expecting it to be, such an important industrial metal, so great that it's going to bypass being a monetary metal, and that governments may actually not confiscate, but do everything in their power to, pick up the supply that the people have.
Yeah.
Then rather than negotiate your silver for the new fiat currency that's going to come out, okay, well, doesn't the government and the Fed and all these others that are going to go bankrupt, don't they have millions of properties in real estate, and as well as other tangible concessions? So I frankly, if anybody is going to give up their silver, that you negotiate for those type of things, i.e., yeah, you want some of my silver? Yeah. Well, you see that $1 million house that's been sitting vacant since the 2008 financial crisis? I'll give you 5 ounces of silver for that house. Oh, right. Since the bank owns it, hey, you know what? Then the government can co-opt it. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, there was a fantastic thing. I forget who the guy who talked about it. He did an interview. Robert David Steele.
Oh yeah.
And
Caesar, we got to get him on. Robert David Steele. Mad requests coming in for this guy.
Yeah, he did it. He has some partners in a little think tank, and he said one of the greatest things that Donald Trump could do to get every American on his side, to alleviate all their debt and not cost the government a red cent, is to set up a website and have every American who's got some debt, whether it's student loan, medical debt, small business debt, credit card debt, and register with the website, and then send their actual debt and their information, and give permission to Donald Trump to be their agent in negotiating. And then he would go to the banks and say, you're going to cut this debt by 2/3. You're going to cut interest rates by 2/3. And if you don't, then I'm going to tell these individuals, these people, to stop paying this debt. And I'm going to give them all a presidential pardon.
There you go.
Yeah, I get a little bit, concerned looking through history, and this is changing a little bit. But when you look at, George W. when he came in for his first, couple of years, he had the House and the Senate, really didn't do anything with it at all. Same thing with Obama. When Obama took over, had both the House and the Senate and didn't accomplish anything. He flew around the world and apologizing for the United States. And with Trump coming in, there's so many opposing forces from not only within the Republican Party, but obviously the Democrats and what they can get accomplished. And I think what's important is that I always keep looking at with the, whether it's the Obamacare, these things that are happening, is that for some reason I just keep thinking these things are distractions of what is really occurring globally, of things that we should be keeping our eye on. And I think that we have a responsibility to tell people of what's happening, in the amount of people that have no idea at all regarding the economies, regarding the dollar, regarding inflation, regarding monetary policy. Most Americans don't understand that. They don't have a clue. All they care about is that when they go to the store, whatever, that their debit card works and everything. So again, I think at some point I would really like to see some messaging come across to say, hey, you know what? It is going to be a rough road. It's not going to be all roses and flowers. And I think people, you know, I have a lot of hope in humanity, but I think that people would rise to that to say, hey, you know what? We're broken. America, our debt, you know, coming quickly approaching $20 trillion. Our Fed, we've inflated the markets and everything else. There's going to be some hurt. We're going to need every American to do their part to fall off of the enslavement, the government enslavement of welfare, to work hard to find a job. I would really like at some point that we cross that paradigm to get people to understand that what is their V. I think it's just so important for us, because if we continue this path and we deliver these great speeches and we do all these wonderful things, we, at the end of the day, yeah, we feel good about it, but what does it accomplish?
Right.
What does it do?
Right. Now, there's still a lot of work to be done, man, and, you know, there's still a lot of issues. I mean, a couple of things I didn't look. I overall, I love the speech, and I'm hoping I'm pulling this guy is able to pull off everything that he says he's going to pull off. A couple of things that I don't like, that I didn't like about it, is the Iran bit. You know, talking about Iran again. My whole thing is, I'm thinking that that's just another ploy. I think it's another political maneuvering in that regard. Because there's really nothing to be done on Iran. It's that's a done deal. It's you know, move on, move forward. There's too many things at play here, and we're in no position, even with the full brunt of NATO and Schmado and Plato. There's nothing that's going to be done in regards to that. So I think I just hope it's political jockeying. The other thing I don't like is the expansion of the military. Oh, okay, well, we already spend over close to what, $600 billion on the wasted military. I mean, rather, you know, I don't think increasing military spending is wise. That's number one. The Russians have proven, especially this past 2 years, where we've seen their stuff in action. They have shown you could do so much more with less, because they don't have these cockamamie ideas. You know, no one could look at a friggin' F-35 and say it's a great plane. It's a piece of shit. Okay? It is a flying turd. Actually, it doesn't even fly. It can't turn, it can't shoot. It's a garbage plane. It'll get shredded in the air. I mean, it loses against an F-16, for crying out loud, in a dogfight. But, you know, supposedly they want to market to you. It's stealth. It's fifth generation. You can't see it. It's an invisible Muhammad Ali. It's marketing tripe, man. So these are the things that I'm concerned about, is that there's still this military spending thing. You know, yeah, we're talking about, you know, having peace, but at the same time, we're like, you know, Iran is the biggest supporter of. No, it's not. It's the Saudis. Can we just? I mean, Americans are ready for this truth. Let's deal with it. Maybe politically, it's not the right time right now. I can see that, but all I'm saying is, look, in the next 3 to 6 months, I got to see something big's got to happen. That's all I got to say.
Well, be careful what you wish for.
I know.
That you're not expecting. And, of course, you know the timeline that I've been saying.
Yep.
And if Hillary had made it, we'd have seen that next big event in the Mideast, probably in mid-April. It could still happen then, but I expect now it's pushed back until late August to early October. But that, you know, be careful what you wish for. There's a lot of people want a big thing here too. The one thing I wanted to add is these people that are the Donald's detractors that want all this harm to come. Putin was in a similar situation where he had the oligarchs that were really trying to hold him back, hold him down in the zone, and he fought back very hard against them. And the people understood, had a perception that he was fighting on their behalf. And so his numbers, his popularity went up in spite of the fact that he was having a very difficult economy. And he was able to market to his people and explain what was going on from, you know, the perception he wanted them to have, that it was being caused by these oligarchs and outside forces, and that it was an attack on them as a country. And so his numbers have stayed very strong and gone up during all of those attacks. I think that the Donald has similar belief that if he markets this better, if he says what he's trying to do, articulates it better, can bring the people behind him like Reagan did, that those numbers will continue to stay strong and go up, in spite of the fact that we're going to have some very dicey moments over the remainder of this year. Not just the first 100 days, but the first 1,000 days. This is going to be a tough go, and he's only dealing on the domestic front so far. Wait till the foreign front starts to come on strong, and then see how people feel. This is going to be a dicey row that he has to go through here.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we're down to the wire, so we'll have about about 10 minutes or so. So, Deb, you give your closing synopsis, then Kenny.
Yeah,
W.
I wanted to mention we did hear the phrase "the Great Wall." I think
Yes,
that's the first time we've heard. That wall is coming, like you said. And I was going to bring out a Evolution Consulting made on the little interview I did a couple weeks about that wall will prove to be mutually beneficial. Mexico's going to want that wall.
right?
Because he says, and we've always a matter of time before Mexico would go to a silver-backed monetary system. Plus, they have a lot of shale oil reserves, and their country is full of those two resources, so they will want the wall.
Absolutely, Kenny.
Yep. The thing to do is to trust but verify. When it comes to Trump, when it comes to the government. Fortunately, this is a edict that the press has completely lost with the American people. So, I take a look every day, go out to Yahoo, and every single article on Yahoo is absolutely negative. Everything on their front feeder. I don't even read the news there anymore. I usually go to sports. But the fact of the matter is that all these polls, all this junk, the American people now have access directly to their president through Facebook, the weekly fireside chats per se, through Twitter, and then they can go to alternative media sources. This is going to be vastly important, just like W said about building that coalition. And what we're going to see, of course, now is the ball is in Congress's court. Congress has not stepped up to the plate so far. By the fact
they've been on vacation.
Well, by the fact that they haven't gotten the cabinet completely in the first 30 days. So how much can he really trust the Senate? It's going to be a matter of the American people have to either buy into this, or are they going to go ahead and, because the American people, the ones that voted and said enough is enough, that's 40 to 46% of the population. There's still 54%, and they're not completely against Trump, but many are apathetic. And he was absolutely right that Congress has to do its work. He's going to do his work in his cabinet, but the American people, and I was hoping and praying that he would point at the camera and say, we cannot do this without you. We need you, the American people, to do your work and your part. He stayed away from that. But the fact of the matter is if that the American people don't bring their will and fortitude into this, there's only so much that the government can do, and only so much success is going to come from it. So I'm hoping in the next 6 months that we see the American people buy into this. And if that happens, then Congress is going to fall into line like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Kenny, CJ.
Yeah, well said, Kenny. Appreciate it. Yeah, and in terms of my perspective, is that, I have a 12 and a 14-year-old son. I have no choice but to be optimistic, but to be encouraging to others to get involved, to unite around this administration, around the reform, the things that needs to take place for the future, for their future, not about ours. I don't care. I don't care about my future anymore. It's about theirs and what we leave to them. And we need all people, both sides, to get involved. And I pray to God that the Democrats that have so much hate, that they want to divide this country and everything, it's going to take a unified country to face the tsunami that's in front of us, and for us to hit it head on. So that's my message.
Agreed. W.
Inflation's coming. Don't be afraid of it. It's been here before, but it isn't going to be something you want to be caught short-sighted on. What he's decided to do with the military is the correct thing to do. Reagan had to do it also, because what happens when you throw the money there is it does create jobs, the kind of jobs that people go out and buy houses and cars and raise families with, as opposed to when you just do it social spending wise and the money is spent and gone, the people become credit worthy. They have the kind of jobs that allow them to do that. So while inflation is coming, there's also going to be more back to work going on. That's real. The question is, how long can he sustain before either the American people decide 100% to go behind him, or some significant percentage, or his support peters out because people find some reason, buy into the mischief engines that are all around us, and waver in their support. Choppy edge, and I wouldn't really bet solidly one way or the other, but I'm praying for Trump. And I think if we do anything at all, you better pray for him, because at this point he's got the point. If he doesn't make it, probably neither do we.
Yeah, I agree. And my closing statement is basically summarizing everything. It's love him or hate him, he's the best hope we got at this point. And not only support him with everything that we can do, and also with prayer, but also having skin in our game. Unless we get involved, and I think that's the consensus between what Deb is saying, what Ken's saying, what CJ's saying, what W's saying. I think all of us are in agreement. The days for us, or the time that we've sat on the sidelines, it's over. If you want this country, if you want it bad, if you want this country to be the country that you remember, the great nation that it once was, and the great nation that it can be, now is the time for all of us to be involved at every level. I cannot emphasize that more than enough. The war for the Republic is on. I think the next few days, next few weeks, me and W has been talking about in the behind the scenes. I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes meetings going on in DC, a lot of power plays by power players with incredible things that are about to come forth. And it's going to be a war. It's going to be a war for basically the Republic. And all of us have to be in a mindset of being actively involved. We cannot afford to sit idly by. We cannot afford to let this Republic go to waste. CJ, take it away, brother.